Hello, welcome to the Motivational Stories podcast. I am your host, Ricky Lahiri, and today's story is called Arthur Ashe and a Game Beyond the Baseline, Richmond, 1950. 10-year-old Arthur shuffled through the segregated streets of Richmond, Virginia, the rhythmic clack of his worn sneakers a counterpoint to the uneasy hum of the city. It was a humid summer afternoon, the kind that pressed down heavy on your shoulders, mirroring the weight in Arthur's heart. Today wasn't a tennis day. Today was a reminder. Arthur wasn't allowed to play on the sparkling courts at the country club, a place reserved solely for white members. He'd seen them from afar, these privileged figures gliding across the manicured green, their laughter echoing off the pristine white fences. Tennis, a sport that flickered on screens in flickering black and white, was a world away for a black boy in Richmond. Yet, the dream of tennis clung to Arthur like the sweat beading on his forehead. He'd discovered the sport at a ramshackle public park, a discarded racket his only companion. Hours bled into days as he mimicked the strokes he saw in newsreels, the worn wood of the racket an extension of his yearning. Reaching his usual spot in the park, Arthur's heart sank. The makeshift net, strung with frayed rope between two creaking posts, was gone, replaced by a freshly painted sign that read, in bold white letters, "For colored use only." A wave of humiliation washed over him. Even their play space was segregated. Just as despair threatened to engulf him, a gruff voice startled him. "You lookin' for a net, boy?" Arthur looked up to see a tall, broad-shouldered black man with a gentle smile crinkling the corners of his eyes. This was Mr. Randolph, the park's unofficial custodian, a man who knew every blade of grass and every child who sought solace within its boundaries. Mr. Randolph retrieved the net from a hidden corner, its worn canvas a testament to countless matches. He strung it up with practiced ease, his movements seasoned with years of quiet defiance. "Thought you might need it, son," Mr. Randolph said, patting the net. "This court's for everyone who wants to play. Don't you let no sign tell you different." His words were a spark in Arthur's despondency. With newfound determination, he picked up his racket, the worn wood warm in his hand. Mr. Randolph became Arthur's coach, mentor, and confidant. He taught him not just the mechanics of the game, but its spirit, the grit, the strategy, the unwavering will to fight. He schooled Arthur in the legends of Althea Gibson, the first black tennis champion, and encouraged him to dream beyond the confines of the park. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Arthur's strokes sharpened, his backhand gained power, his footwork became a silent dance across the cracked asphalt. He sparred with older boys, their playful taunts masking a grudging respect. The park court became a testing ground, not just for his tennis skills but also for his resilience. One day, a white teenager named Charlie wandered into their game. Initially hesitant, Charlie was soon drawn into the rhythm of the rallies. Competition gave way to camaraderie, the color of their skin fading into the background as they battled point for point. Mr. Randolph watched with a satisfied grin. The park became a refuge, a space where boundaries blurred and dreams took flight. Arthur devoured books on tennis strategy, his imagination painting him on the hallowed grass of Wimbledon. He practiced serving under the harsh glare of streetlights, the rhythmic thump of the ball against his worn racket a steady beat of his ambition. His talent couldn't be contained within the confines of the park. Whispers of prodigy and natural reached the ears of Dr. Ronald Charity, a black physician who dedicated his life to nurturing young black talent. Dr. Charity, recognizing Arthur's raw potential, became his advocate. He arranged for Arthur to train with a white tennis coach, breaching unspoken barriers and securing access to better courts and competition. The journey wasn't easy. There were taunts on the court, rejections at tournaments, constant reminders of the racial inequalities that permeated society. But Arthur persevered, his determination fueled by Mr. Randolph's unwavering belief and Dr. Charity's unwavering mentorship. In 1960, at the tender age of 17, Arthur was accepted into the prestigious UCLA tennis program. It was a pivotal moment, a gateway to a world of possibilities beyond the segregated streets of Richmond. He left for California with a promise etched in his heart, to not just succeed for himself, but to inspire others to defy limitations. Arthur's journey at UCLA was a whirlwind. He excelled academically, his sharp mind a match for his athletic prowess. But his greatest battles were fought on the tennis court. He faced top-seeded players, navigating a tennis world that was still predominantly white. He endured racist slurs and challenges to his legitimacy, his victories sweeter for the defiance they embodied. In 1963, Arthur made history by becoming the first black member of the U.S. Davis Cup team. This groundbreaking achievement was a testament to his relentless drive and a beacon of hope for black athletes everywhere. But it was far from the end of the road. He faced international opponents who played with fierce intensity, aware they were not just competing against Arthur, but against the weight of history. Yet, Arthur's game evolved. He developed a powerful serve and volley style, his strong baseline game complemented by an aggressive net approach. He learned to channel his anger into controlled aggression, his powerful strokes punctuated by moments of subtle finesse. Finally, in 1968, the year Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, Arthur achieved the seemingly impossible. He stood triumphant at the U.S. Open, defeating Tom Walker in a nail-biting final to become the first black man to win a Grand Slam singles title. The victory sent shockwaves across the world, a powerful symbol of athletic excellence and social change. But Arthur's ambition soared beyond the tennis court. He became a vocal advocate for social justice, using his platform to fight against apartheid in South Africa and racism in his own country. He understood the power of his voice, a voice that echoed not just for himself, but for the countless black athletes who had paved the way and for those who would follow. His activism wasn't without consequence. He was arrested in South Africa for protesting apartheid, and his outspoken nature occasionally clashed with tennis officials who preferred athletes who stayed silent. But Arthur refused to be silenced. He believed that silence was complicity, and his dedication to equality ran deeper than any trophy. In 1975, Arthur reached the pinnacle of his tennis career. He secured the coveted #1 ranking in the world, a monumental achievement that solidified his place amongst the tennis legends. He went on to win the Australian Open in 1970 and Wimbledon, the most prestigious tennis tournament of all, in 1975. Arthur's legacy transcends trophies and rankings. He became a symbol of hope and inspiration for a generation. He showed the world that excellence had no color barrier, that talent could bloom even in the cracks of a segregated society. He shattered racial stereotypes, proving that a black athlete could not only compete but dominate in a predominantly white sport. But his greatest impact may have been off the court. Arthur used his platform to champion social justice, advocating for equality and human rights. He became a bridge between communities, his voice a powerful tool for dismantling racial prejudice. In 1992, Arthur was diagnosed with HIV/AIDS, a disease contracted during a blood transfusion. He faced his final challenge with the same courage and grace he had displayed throughout his life. He continued to advocate for AIDS awareness, using his final days to educate and inspire the world. Arthur Ashe passed away in 1993, leaving behind a legacy that continues to resonate today. His name adorns the U.S. Open Stadium, a constant reminder of his groundbreaking achievements. But more importantly, his spirit lives on in the countless young athletes who dare to dream beyond limitations, in the activists who fight for justice, and in the belief that the game of life can be played with integrity and passion, regardless of the color of your skin. Arthur's story is a testament to the human spirit's ability to overcome adversity. It is a story that reminds us that the truest victories are not just those on the scoreboard, but those that move us closer to a world where dreams have no color and where the game of life is played on a level court for all. Thank you for listening. If you like the stories I tell, please follow the podcast and subscribe to it to get the latest notifications about the release of episodes. You can also follow me on X, previously known as Twitter, to get the latest notifications regarding episodes. I have provided a link to my X profile in the description section of the episode and the podcast.